Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, disappointing books and wonderful books. It's my weekly wrap-up. So I talked a bit about this in the video I put up last Sunday, where I was talking about genre and our kind of expectations of genre, and how I'd read a bunch of horror novels that I was a bit disappointed by. That I was expecting to really like and didn't. And that theme has continued this week. But fortunately, I've also read a couple of books which were amazing, which I absolutely loved. Neither of which were horror. So yeah, it's been an interesting week, and it's been a really good week. So last week when I filmed this, I think I'd only finished 2 books that week. This week I finished 7 books, which does feel very satisfying and definitely a bit of a return to form for me. So this video today will be, the normal format which you'll be used to for a Saturday video. I'll talk about the books I've read. I'll talk about what I'm reading at the moment and what I'm expecting to be reading in the week ahead. I will talk about stuff that has been on the channel in the last week and stuff that's coming up in the week ahead. I'll talk through my reading stats, so against a couple of kind of key things that I'm got stats for. And I will also at the end do a mini book haul. So I've had quite a few books come in this week, despite being on this Read What You Own challenge where I'm not allowed to buy any books. People keep sending me books, which is lovely. So I've got a few of those to talk about as well. So I'll do that at the end. So right, let's get on with it then. So what have I read this week? So I think when I filmed this video last week, I was reading The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey, which I finished, which was fine. It was fine but unspectacular. I expected to really, really like it, and indeed I did really enjoy the first third or so. The concept is great, which is basically it's like a zombie book, but the main character is a zombie, effectively. But yeah, it just felt a bit too light. It felt like it could have done a bit more with the subject matter, and it felt kind of a bit YA and a bit fluffy at times, and also too long. I mean, it's like nearly 500 pages long, so it felt a bit over long. But I did quite enjoy it. It was kind of I guess a solid 3-star read. I also finished during the week Hogg by Samuel Delany, which I won't talk about at all in this video. I did a long review. I think it's the longest single book review I've ever done. It was like 25 minutes long. So if you're interested in knowing more about Hogg, which is one of the most famously disturbing books ever written, watch that video. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I also finished a couple more disappointing horror novels. So actually they weren't really disappointing because I didn't have high expectations for them in the first place. So I read the final 2 books in the Odd Thomas series by Dean Koontz, which were Deeply Odd and Saint Odd. So there were points when I quite enjoyed Deeply Odd. There were some bits of it that were quite exciting. The stories do have a kind of enjoyable, pulpy feel to them almost, in terms of being quite silly and throwaway. But Dean Koontz just labours the point so often that it just killed any enjoyment in the books for me. So I've read the whole series, all 7 books, in the last month or 2. And really not enjoyed them at all. I feel like I deserve a reward for having got through them. Somebody on my review of Hogg suggested that if you finish Hogg, you should get a reward. I'm not sure about that, but I think if you finish the Odd Thomas series by Dean Koontz, you should get a reward. So anyway, I've read those as well, and then also read Dr. Sleep by Stephen King, which is a book I was really looking forward to, but nervous about. So I was really looking forward to it because I'm a huge fan of The Shining. It's my favourite Stephen King book, and this, of course, is the sequel to The Shining. I was also nervous about it because I'm a huge fan of The Shining, and this is the sequel to The Shining. And I was right to be nervous. It wasn't great. There's some interesting ideas, but it felt like a sequel that was written in order to write a sequel, rather than because King really had anything to say. So it follows Danny, the main character from The Shining, as an adult. There's a lot of examination of alcoholism, which was quite interesting, and obviously that's a central theme of The Shining as well, and is something that comes up a lot in King's work, alcoholism and addiction. So that was quite interesting, but the actual story I didn't think was that great. So again, it was kind of a three-star read for me, but even that might be a little bit generous. So yeah, that was a shame. So let's get on to the wonderful books then. So the wonderful books were Carol by Patricia Highsmith, which was originally published under the title A Price of Salt, which was just wonderful. So basically a literary romance, which is not the kind of book I normally enjoy at all, but a romance about a relationship between two women, one slightly older, kind of in her 30s, I think, and one who is, I think, about 20. And just about them discovering each other, getting to know each other, and facing in a bit to the prejudice of the time. So it was written in the 50s. So obviously that kind of hangs over the whole book, the taboo nature of their relationship. But it never felt like it overwhelmed the book, if that makes sense. So it really was a lovely book about romance, about what it feels like to fall in love. And a wonderful period piece as well, actually, in terms of capturing that time, capturing what it was like to live in, I think it's in New York, in the 50s. So I really thoroughly enjoyed this. So reading this as part of this ongoing project I'm doing with Anne Novella to read all of Patricia Highsmith's novels, really enjoying it so far. This was only the second one. The first was Strangers on a Train, which I put a review up of in the last week, which was also excellent. So next up we have The Blunderer, which I'm really looking forward to. And then the other wonderful book I read, I started last night and finished this morning. It was that good. I mean, it's only short. It's only like 160 pages. But that was A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. So I'm a huge fan of Becky Chambers. I think I've given 5 stars to every Becky Chambers book I've read. And this was no exception. So she's probably best known for the Wayfarers series, which is a series of 4 books about I don't even know what they're about a universe filled with wonder, basically, and it starts off being about a particular set of characters, the Wayfarer series, and ends up just expanding and expanding and expanding, and it's wonderful for that. A Psalm for the Wild Built was just as good. So it's and I won't say too much about it because I'm going to do a review of it, but basically it's about a slightly different version of Earth. I don't know if it's supposed to be Earth or a completely different planet. I think it's a different planet where robots have being developed by humans to perform manual tasks, basically to work in factories and things like that, but have then become sentient. So have gained self-awareness, and humanity has said, okay, well, that's cool. You're self-aware. You can go off and do what you want. We won't make you work in factories anymore. And the robots have gone away and kind of set up their own society, basically. And kind of decades later, it's about a human and a robot meeting. And it's just beautiful. An absolutely beautiful book. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that. So I'm now reading The Room by Hubert Selby Jr., which I started this morning. I've read 60 pages so far, which is a little over a quarter of it. It's really good. I've never read any Hubert Selby Jr. before. This is one of my 50 books to read before I turn 50, because I was conscious that he felt like a gap in my reading, and I will definitely be reading more of him after this. This is exceptional. So it's about a prisoner, and it's kind of a stream of consciousness and flashbacks and things like that. So quite experimental in style, quite weirdly written, but really, really effective. So if I finish it this weekend, which I certainly intend to, I'll be doing a review of this in the week ahead. And also continuing to read The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. I read another one of those short stories this morning by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, obviously. So really enjoying that series of short stories as well. And that's part of my classics project, where I'm reading 12 classics that were recommended by Michael K. Vaughan. So that's what I'm reading at the moment. In terms of what's next, the only other thing I have on my TBR for January is In a Lonely Place by Dorothy B. Hughes. So I'll be starting that as soon as I finish The Room. I may be able to fit something else in January as well, I think. And if I do, it will almost certainly be the second book in the Monk and Robot series, so the sequel to Psalm for the Wild Bill, which is called A Prayer for the Crowd Show, I think. So yeah, I love that first book so much. I want to read the next one as soon as possible. So yeah, whereas when I filmed this last week, I was really behind where I needed to be. I've had a fantastic reading week this week, despite the fact I didn't enjoy most of the books, powering on with my reading, and I'm actually ahead of where I need to be for the month. So what that's done for my overall stats for the two main things I'm tracking at the moment, I guess, are the 50 books to read before I'm 50. And the 100 books I need to read for my Read What You Own challenge. So I am at 5 out of the 50 for the 50 books to read before I'm 50, so way behind where I should be. And I filmed my February TBR video the other day, and I do talk about that, talk about all the different numbers and things. So when I finished this and the Dorothy B. Hughes book, that'll be another 2 to add on to that, so I'll be 7, but I'm still very, very behind where I should be. And then in the 100 book challenge, or the Read What You Own challenge, I'm at 58 books now. So I'm well over halfway, and trying to decide what I will do at the end of it. I'm still trying to decide whether at the end of the 100 book challenge I just stop and go back to being able to buy books with gay abandon, or if I decide that I'm going to extend it and do the God tier 500 book challenge, which Michael K. Vaughan has set himself. And I'm kind of leaning towards the 500 book challenge, I think, but I will definitely need to introduce some additional caveats if I do that, around being able to buy books for like buddy reads and things like that. So we shall see. So that's what I've been reading, what I'm going to be reading, and then yes, I'll start on the February TBR as well. And I think the first thing I read for February may well be The Blunderer. Right, so moving on to channel stuff then. So in the last week or so, you've had, so I put up yesterday a video about Garb August 1.5, talking about the books I'm going to be reading for that. So that comes up next weekend. I have prepared something very special, which I will probably include in my video on the Sunday. Fingers crossed, there's a few things that need to come together for it to happen, but hopefully it will, and I think that will be a lot of fun. So yeah, look out for that next Sunday. I've also, as I've said already, put up reviews of Hogg by Samuel R. Delany and Stranger on the Train by Patricia Highsmith. I did a video about how having structure to my reading helps me, both in my reading and just with stress in my day-to-day life. I did a video where I put stickers on a laptop, which I really enjoyed doing. And as I've said already, I did a video about kind of genre and how we think about genre. In the week ahead, I'm going to do, so my kind of Sunday ramble tomorrow is going to be about trash again, but specifically about not why people should read trash, but why people should respect trash and why it's a really important part of literature. So I'm going to talk about that, and as I've said, I will probably do reviews of both The Room and Psalm for the Wild Bill, and I will also do a tag video on Tuesday, but I haven't quite decided which one. There's 2 that have caught my eye this week, so I will do one of those, and I've also filmed, as I said, my TBR video for February, so that will be going up on Monday. So yeah, I've got a reasonable number of books to get through in February, so you can watch me talk about those and let me know if you've read any of them. So I promised a book haul as well, didn't I? So I've had a ton of books come in this week, so let me go through them very quickly. So I had this one, Bloodstander by Laird Barron, which was sent to me by a subscriber, Dan Lehman Kennedy, so thank you very much, Dan, really appreciate this. Laird Barron is not someone I've read, but a few people have recommended him to me in the comments, and this looks just like a good, fun, pulpy crime novel, so really looking forward to reading that. What else have we got? So I've also got a few books here that were sent to me by Peter from the channel Songs from the West Coast, which is a really good music channel if you're into music. So he sent me these books, which he'd got through, I think through a book club or something like that, and hadn't got to. So he sent them on to me. So we have Threading the Labyrinth by Tiffany Angus, The Beauty by Aaliyah Whiteley, Greensmith, also by Aaliyah Whiteley, and Pseudo Tooth by Verity Holloway. So I have to say, I hadn't heard of any of these books, but they all look quite interesting. They look like a kind of mix of kind of fantasy and horror, kind of, experimental, speculative type fiction. So looking forward to giving them a try at some point and seeing what they're like. And then I also got sent these fanzines by Justin from The Paperback Fanatic, who publishes a variety of different fanzines, and very kindly featured me in one of them. I think it was in The Paperback Fanatic. In the latest issue of that, he did a review of my channel where he talked about different booktubers who talk about kind of pulpy paperbacks. And he sent me these, how many are there? 5 issues of various fanzines he publishes, all of which look fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to reading these. So we've got a couple of issues, I think, actually 3 issues of pulp horror. So we have this one, which is the collected pulp horror, and you can see some fantastic covers on the front there, including Night of the Crabs, which I talked about on the channel recently. So we got that. 2 more issues of pulp horror then. So Pulp Horror number 8, which seems to have an article about Sabbat, the series by Smith again. So some lovely stuff in here. These look just wonderful. And look at this. Absolutely fantastic. And then also this one, so another issue. With again, some lovely covers on the back there. And then an issue of The Sleazy Reader, which looks absolutely delightful. So looking forward to that. Again, some fantastic old kind of vintage magazine covers on the back. And issue 44 of The Paperback Fanatic, which again has got some Smith on the cover, which is always good to see. And some more cool stuff on the back, including The Incredible Melting Man, which I used to have that copy. But it is no more, unfortunately. Oh, and an Executioner as well. Fantastic. I've got that one with that cover, I think. So yes, these all look really, really good. So thank you, Justin. I'm looking forward to having a read through these, and I'll report back on them in a future video. I've had a couple of things sent to me by authors as well. So by Frank O'Neill, I'm going to mess up the pronunciation of this. I think it's pronounced Clockmore Law, which is a series of short stories from a Scottish author set around a small village. So this looks really interesting. It's got some photographs as well, which is quite interesting. So yeah, looking forward to reading that. And also A Mother's Revenge by Lucy Fire, which came all the way from South Africa, I think. So this looks like a very enjoyable kind of female revenge novel. So looking forward to reading that, and I'll feature this in an upcoming episode, that's what I'm looking for, an upcoming episode of my Small Press Spotlight. And then finally, and perhaps most impressively, although all these books look absolutely wonderful, we have this, Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. So MJ from the channel Reading This Life ages ago said when she got to 1,000 subscribers she would do a giveaway, because she had 2 copies of this. So this is the signed edition of Neverwhere. You'll see it's signed by Mr. Gaiman there. And yeah, so she did the giveaway, and embarrassingly, I won it. So I have read Neverwhere and thought it was excellent, so I will read it again at some point. But this is a really lovely illustrated signed edition. So yeah, looking forward to diving into that again at some point. So time for a random book from the shelves, and a twist on the formula in this episode. So one of the perks of my Patreon, the 2 top tiers, is that people can choose a random book from the shelves for me to talk about. And Heidi, one of my patrons, has chosen this one for me to talk about, Psychic Teenage Bloodbath by Carl John Lee, which is a book I got in one of the Abominable Book Club subscription boxes the other week, or the other month even. It was a while ago. So I haven't read it yet. I have read another book by Carl John Lee called Blood Beast Mutations, which I did quite enjoy. It wasn't amazing, but it was quite an interesting read. This one looks fun. It advertises itself as an extreme horror novel. I don't know if you saw there. I've got a signed book plate for it, which just fell out. I'm terrible. I never stick in the signed book plates. I always just keep them tucked inside the book. So yeah, let me read you the blurb on the back of it anyway. Susan Ward is in a coma. She's been there for 1 year, ever since the accident. She can't speak, she can't move, she can't even close her eyes. Unable to sleep, Susan has gone quite mad. But deep within the recesses of her mind, she's discovered a new and frightening set of skills. And now, 1 year later, Susan will use these skills for one single-minded, blood-soaked purpose: revenge. From the sadistic mind of Carl John Lee, author of Horror House of Perversion, comes a nightmarish tale of vengeance and brutal, stomach-churning violence. That does sound good, doesn't it? So, yeah, I need to make sure I get to this as soon as I've got a bit of capacity in my TBRs. I'll definitely give it a read. It does look fun. And thank you very much to Heidi for being the first patron to pick a random book from the shelves. You'll see these cropping up. Certainly won't be every random book from the shelves, but every so often I will pull one out that's been chosen by a patron and have a chat about it. So I hope you found that interesting. Hope you've all had good reading weeks as well. As I say, it's been a fantastic week for me. So hopefully that trend will continue into February. But yeah, I hope you've read some good stuff this week. Let me know what you've been reading. Let me know if you've read any of the books I've talked about. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.